South Pacific was the show Rodgers and Hammerstein wrote that had to be a hit. They had written Oklahoma and Carousel, both of which were very, very successful. Then they wrote Allegro, and it was a kind of embarrassing failure. They needed their next show to be a hit, and South Pacific was that show. It hit a time in this country where there was still an emotional feeling about World War II.
After the war, soldiers returned to an America that had changed little in its treatment of minorities. Overseas, they had encountered people of all races, and some had even come home with war brides. James Michener illustrated the war's racial and cultural friction in his collection of stories, Tales of the South Pacific. Rodgers and Hammerstein, working with Joshua Logan, based their musical upon two wartime love affairs. A lieutenant from Philadelphia meets a beautiful island girl, and a nurse from the segregated South falls in love with a middle-aged French planter. Rodgers and Hammerstein had just one actress in mind to play the nurse, Mary Martin. Oscar had first met her in Hollywood before the war, when she was just an aspiring singer-dancer from the cowtown of Weatherford, Texas. 10 years later, Oscar wrote her the part of a lifetime. Though she loves the Frenchman, the nurse initially rejects him because he has fathered two mixed-race children.
In the South Pacific, a young American Navy nurse, explaining her race prejudice, says, "I can't help this. This is emotional. It was born in me." A young Marine lieutenant, played by my friend here, Bill Tabbert, says,
"It's not born in you. It happens after you're born. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught from year to year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught."
South Pacific produced quite a lot of backlash, particularly over the song You've Got to Be Taught, which a lot of people felt was unacceptable.
Oddly made, and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught.
Some businessmen came to see me and said, "Won't you ask Rodgers and Hammerstein to kill that song, You Have to Be Taught? Because it deals with interracial matters, and we don't like the idea of the guy being in love with the island girl anyway, and this song just rubs it in." The show was long. It would have been very easy to cut it. And Rodgers and Hammerstein asked me what I thought, and I said, "Well, if you cut that song, you cut the whole musical." And they said, "That's precisely what we think."
Instead of simply celebrating America's efforts in the war, South Pacific challenged the country to confront its deep-seated racial bigotry. For their achievement, Rodgers and Hammerstein and Josh Logan won the Pulitzer Prize.
You've got to be carefully taught.